Sister, and welcome to Grades and Babe Reviews. Let's get started, shall we? He would be king by YouTuber.
Hi guys, it's Sharonda with Brazen Babe Reviews, and welcome to my channel. During this video, I will be doing a book recap, and that recap will be on The Forbidden Man by Elle, Wright. And here's your cover. This is a contemporary romance. It's part of a series. I think it's 3 books out right now, and the series is An Edge of Scandal. For the most part, I really did enjoy this book until we got towards the end. So what you have is Sydney Williams and Morgan Smith, and they all are part of this group of friends that have known each other, you know, throughout college, throughout childhood, stuff like that. So the series itself is revolved around this group of friends, and the first book concerns Sydney and Morgan. But like I said, for the most part, I enjoyed the book. To give you a brief synopsis, well, I'll read the blurb for you so you can understand what's going on. Sydney Williams has forgiven her fiance, Den, or his name is Caden, but they call him Den for short, more times than she can count. But his latest betrayal, just days before their wedding, is too big to ignore. Shocking her friends and family, she calls off the engagement. She walks out on Den and into the arms of his brother, Morgan. Known as a player, Morgan Smith has secretly spent years fighting his feelings for Sydney. When Den's latest dirty deed leaves Sydney devastated, Morgan can't stop himself from coming to her rescue. What begins as a friendship quickly escalates into an all-consuming passion. Despite their intense connection, Sydney would rather deny her desire than come between brothers. But as Morgan is determined to make Sydney his, Den won't give her up without a fight. Okay, so that's your synopsis. You have Sydney. She was actually engaged to Den's brother. To Morgan's brother, Caden or Den, whatever. And she knew Morgan before, but Den came into her life at a really traumatizing part. You know, something traumatizing happened to her, and Den came in like right on time and kind of like rescued her, was there for her and stuff like that. So Sydney turned this her feelings of owing Den for being through this traumatizing part of her life. She fell in love with him, but it also became, you know, she also felt like she owed him as well, because, you know, he was there for her or whatever. The thing with Den is we deal with mental health issues in this book, and Den deals with depression and bipolarism and stuff like that. So we deal with mental health issues in the book as well. So when Den was going through his problems and his issues or whatever, he had a way of lashing out at people. And the problem with Den as well is that because he was so, in my opinion, babied throughout this book by all the characters, he was able to manipulate certain situations, even though, you know, he dealt with mental illness. So the latest thing is Den was always cheating on Sydney. Nobody wanted her to be with him. Nobody wanted her to marry him when he actually engaged. You know, when he actually asked her to propose. What the hell? So nobody really wanted her to be with him when he actually proposed. And when we go inside of the book, they are engaged. But of course, Den gets caught cheating again with the same woman that he has always cheated on Sydney with. And Morgan has always been in love with Sydney, but he is always like stamped down his feelings for her. First it happened to do with her twin brother. She has a twin brother that has his own book in the series. His name was Red. They call him Red throughout the book. I can't remember like his full name right now, but his nickname was Red. And Red didn't want anybody, like when they were like college and stuff like that. You know how to think, don't date my sister and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, this is how your sisters always end up with bad dudes, because you're going around telling a good dude not to fuck your sister. And it's just like, in your way. So Morgan never pushed up on Sydney out of respect for Red. And then, you know, when this thing happened in her life, and then all of a sudden he couldn't push up on her, because now her and his brother were actually hooked up and were together for all these years or whatever. But like I said, when we go inside of the story, we found out that Caden or Den has cheated on Sydney again. The woman that he cheated on actually called her and told her again, told her that, what happened or whatever. And she confronted him, and she calls off the engagement. She calls off the wedding, as I mentioned from the blurb or whatever. So during Morgan's thing to help Sydney get over it, get over Den's latest betrayal and stuff like that, her and Morgan get closer, and they start to have this relationship. And for the first half of the book, it's cute, because they're kind of like, it's your ex-fiance's brother, so there's going to be there's going to be issues with that from the get-go, right? So we're going to have issues, we're going to have problems, because who ends up falling in love with their ex-fiance's brother and all this other stuff? And her and Morgan end up sleeping together throughout the book. And like I said, it started off cute in the beginning, because they always knew they had this attraction. Didn't I ask you to get down? They always had this. She be doing the most, y'all. They always had this attraction for each other, but like I said, for various reasons, they never acted on or whatever. So now that they are with this latest situation and issue that that went on, and like I said, for the most part, I enjoyed the beginning of the book, because the attraction that Morgan and Sydney had for each other, it started off kind of innocently. You know what I mean? Like her, like they were friends. You know what I mean? And her going to his house, chilling, just to get away from them, because her and Den were living together before they actually got married. So when she broke off the engagement, Den didn't want to leave the house, and that forced Sydney to actually leave, because she wasn't staying, in that place with him anymore. So while she was looking for, another apartment or, a house or whatever, she actually stayed between Morgan's and her brother's house. But when her and Morgan kind of like messed up and slept together the first time, she stopped staying with Morgan. She was like, we can't do it. You have that thing like, oh my God, we slept together. You're my ex-fiance's brother. I can't do it. Blah, blah, blah. So she decides not to stay at Morgan's house anymore. And she starts to stay at her brother's house until she gets her own, she bought a condo or whatever, until she gets her own place again. But her and Morgan still have this back and forth in the beginning of the book, where, they're kind of like deciding what they're going to do. It was a little bit annoying as well at the beginning of the book, because of the back and forth between them. But I got it. It was a complicated situation because Morgan was Den's brother. So, you know, they have that issue. And because Den dealt with this mental illness and had a way of lashing out at people when he was angry and couldn't handle his emotions or certain situations and stuff like that, people kind of like tiptoed around him in this book. But I feel like Caden knew this, and he manipulated a lot of situations, especially Sydney's feelings or whatever. And what frustrated me to the nth power in this book was Sydney's and Morgan's refusal to just come out in the open and admit, like, hey, we did this thing and we're still doing this thing, and we may have these feelings for each other, and, you know, we need to get this all out in the open for everybody. Because pretty much by the time we get to the end of the book, most of their friends had already done figured out. Even Den had already done figured out, like, you know, something's going on between them. And what drove me crazy about this book, when we get to the situation where, okay, spoiler alert, Sydney ends up getting pregnant by Morgan, and we have this whole unnecessary extraness of the book where she's trying to figure out if she's going to tell him. Because what happens is Morgan, they figure, you know, they make it the decision, like, you know, it's going to be hard, we can't make this hard. And Sydney's like, I don't want to break up a family, you know, I don't want you and Den to have this distance anyway. But Morgan had already given up so much for Den, a basketball career, most everything in his life he has given up for Den. Him and Den came from an abusive childhood, and they ended up one of their best friends, who's also I believe he has a series in a book in the series, Kent. They actually ended up being adopted by Kent's parents and being raised by Kent's parents, because him and Caden came from such dysfunction and abuse. But Morgan was able to, even though he was the youngest, Morgan was able to work his way through it. It wasn't easy, but he made, you know, he worked his way through it. Whereas Caden didn't handle it so well. And this is where you have the mental health issues going on with Caden. But Caden was also a very manipulative person, and he was able to manipulate, like I said in the beginning, he was able to manipulate everybody around him when it came to certain situations. And he did that a lot in this book, and it frustrated me a lot because everybody tiptoed around him. Like Sydney, first she didn't want to put it out there that her and Morgan was messing around, because now it's like, oh, you know, it was, you know, if Den finds out, you know, what is it going to do with him? And I get, like, he has I get it, he has this mental health issues, and if he finds out something, you know, everybody is like, you know, what if he does this? What if he, you know, commits suicide or something like that? But then I can't say it enough, he was a very manipulative person. You know, there was like one section in the book where he did something, and I'm telling y'all, I think he did it on purpose, where he hurt himself. And I think he did it on purpose so he could try to win Sydney back, because Den never took responsibility for his actions. He never took responsibility for what he did. Like, you cheated on this woman was going to marry you, and then you cheated on her with the same woman that you always cheated on her with, that a woman that may have, you know, that may have gotten pregnant the last time you cheated on her with Sydney. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he had a very manipulative way of turning things around and trying to put it on Sydney, because he just didn't want to face the issue or anything like that. Like, he really tried to fight to get her back in his book, But it's like, dude, she don't want you back. You cheated on her. And, you know, even once he found out that her and Den were like, you know, sleeping around, and, you know, they may be in love, and Sydney, you know, was pregnant and all this other stuff, he still was like, I want her back. And it's like, why? This woman doesn't want anything to do with you, and you're trying to like manipulate the situation and try to make her feel guilty. He was just like, I felt bad for Den. And then the other thing was, Den didn't want to get the help. He didn't want to get the help that he needed. He only went to go see a psychiatrist after you cheated on Sydney and she moved down. She didn't want to have anything to do with you. And it's just like, dude, get your shit together. He was just, it was terrible. But between Morgan and Sydney, I just feel like it was all cute in the beginning of the book. It really, really was. Like the first half of the book, like I said, was really, really cute, because, you know, you have them like fighting this attraction for each other, but they're still like, you know, they're still sleeping around. They're still like, you know, they're doing the sneaking around thing. Like it was like some funny parts where they were like sneaking around and stuff. And like once her brother found out, and then, you know, Kent found, you know, Morgan's other brother found out, like how they found out. It was like really cute, funny situations, you know what I mean? But then we get towards the end of this book when Sydney ends up getting pregnant, and y'all, we have like all this extraness. Like it was just took this book way down for me, because I just feel like the author drugged this story out when it didn't need to be. Like this book could have been so much shorter if we didn't have all this unnecessariness, because then you had Sydney. She was such a crybaby, but it was like Morgan was willing to, like, he had a job offer where he was going to actually leave and move to another state, and he was actually going to pass up that job offer to stay with her. And she's like, oh, I don't want you to do it, but you keep asking the man to stay, don't leave. You keep telling man you love him, he's your best friend and he's the one for you and all this other stuff, but you're not even making any type of effort to like be with him. And I'm so glad that her brother Red called her out on some of these things. Like, you're not even trying. Like, the man told you he would stay, and she's like, well, you know, I don't want him to feel like he has to stay for me. But you love him and you want to be with him, but you're not trying to do everything in your power to try to make the relationship work. You know what I mean? Like, she got on my nerves. Like, I feel like once we got past, like, once everybody found out about her then like sleeping together and she might possibly be pregnant, which she was, and I just hated the fact that she was so round the way to, like, I'm waiting for the doctor to confirm it. Like, bitch, you know your body. Like, bitch, you know your body. Yeah, it might be a false alarm sometimes, but 99% of the time, we women, we know our bodies. We know when something's going on with our bodies, especially during the pregnancy time. Like, all of that was so unnecessary to me. Like, you're waiting for, like, I understand, yes, you're waiting for the doctor to confirm, but really, you're like passing out, throwing up, you know, and oh, I might have the flu. Bitch, it's not the flu. You're pregnant. And it's like so, and I get it. Like, I get it. Like, you were engaged to his brother, but it's like you and Morgan are here now. Y'all already done confess that y'all love each other and possibly want to be together forever. Why did all this unnecessariness had to be inside of this book? It was so unnecessary, y'all. I was so not happy with the ending of this book. I mean, they do end up being together because of course we gotta have our happily ever after, and that's all fine, well and good, but why did we have to go through all this extraness to get to it? It was just so doggone ridiculous. And then the other thing was, like, we need to tell Den. Oh, we're not going to tell Den now. Let's tell him then. Let's tell him when. It was just so much unnecessariness, especially when everybody had already done figured out that y'all was fucking. Like, what? we doing here? So at the end of this, y'all, I'm gonna have to give this 3 stars. This could have possibly been like a 4-star read, but I just feel like it was just so unnecessarily drawn out, especially when we get like to the midpoint in the book and it's like, y'all there, we here. Where else do we have to go? You know what I mean? Like, this man was going to leave the state and you were gonna hold the whole fact that you were pregnant. I wasn't gonna keep it from you, but bitch, you sure ain't telling me, Tom. Like, I just So an enjoyable read, but also frustrating. So that's it for me, y'all. The Forbidden Man by Elle Wright. Until the next one, later days. Bye.